I've been reading a book a day for the last 7 days or so, but I've read more than 100 books every single year for the last 12 years. And this is exactly how I do it. In fact, I don't think I could do it if I didn't do the exact thing that I'm going to lay out in this video. And it's something that you can do as well. It's super simple. It's a system. It requires a little bit of upfront thought and some planning, but it's a totally achievable thing. And it does not involve speed reading whatsoever. I don't teach speed reading. I think of it like speed forgetting. You're not going to deeply engage with anything if you just race through it. And that's not what this is about. And even like the 1,400 books that I've read in the last, 12 years or so, 13 years, like I didn't race through them. My goal is to get to 10,000 books, but it's not a race. Like if I get to 10,000 books and I can't remember 9,000 of them, then I've failed. But you can absolutely do this. You can just rip through these books like in a single day. Like it's not going to take a whole lot of time, at least compared to what you could be spending your time on. Like time spent with a book is just the best investment that you can make in your future, in your present happiness, in your intelligence, in basically anything. So if you want to read a book a day, you absolutely can. It might require you, probably will require you to stop doing some things that you were doing previously. And for myself, this whole month I'm reading a book a day, but I've had to be intentional about it. So my first best piece of advice is to read multiple books at once, which is actually easier than starting a book and finishing that same book on that same day, which is how most people would try to read a book a day. That's not what I do, and it's also not what I'm going to recommend in this video. But I've also got a little bit of a warning at the end of the video, just something to watch out for. So what you're really going for is 7 books in 7 days, not necessarily start one book in one day, finish it, and then start a new one tomorrow. You can do it that way, but the two reasons why I suggest not doing that have to do with why you should read different formats and a couple of different genres for the duration of your reading challenge. More on that after we do some simple math, which is the only math that I'm qualified to do. So I'm going to make this super simple, and we're going to say that in the next 7 days, you want to read 7 books, and those 7 books are each 200 pages. And there are so many amazing books that are less than 200 pages, and I'm thinking immediately of On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. That one's incredible. Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I think that's around 200 pages. I know something quick and simple is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I love that book, even though I didn't love it as much on the second reading. I just didn't recapture the magic. But for that first time, it was a fantastic book. And like this one right here, Mastering Objections by Jeremy Funderburk, it's a sales book. And if you're in that line of work, you have people saying that, I've got to think about it, or I've got to ask my wife, or something like that. You have these sales objections that you want to overcome. This book is 100 pages long. And like these are not, like this is not hard like this is not a hard book to read, and you can absolutely do so in a single day. So one method that you might want to try is taking those 200 pages and dividing that into 16 hours that you're awake, provided that you get 8 hours of sleep. Now that's 12.5 pages per hour, which is eminently doable. The only danger, though, that I started to mention at the beginning of the video is taking the fun out of reading by making it into some chore or something that you just cross off like a to-do list. That's almost literally the worst that could happen. Like if you read a book a day for a week and then you're just so disgusted with reading that you don't pick up another book for another year, like if you think that might happen, just stop. Like don't do it. It's not worth it. But to lighten things up a little bit and keep things kind of fresh and easier, what I recommend is just switching between formats and genres. Between formats is perfect if you don't always have a physical book with you. For example, I was in line at the grocery store earlier today. I had just a few minutes to pull up the Elon Musk biography on my phone, and I read a few pages of that while I was waiting for the people in front of me to hurry the hell up. And things like that. Like if you're driving a lot, either to or from work or almost literally anywhere, then audiobooks might be a good idea. I mostly listen to audiobooks when it's more kind of story driven, if it's, a novel or if the narrator's really good, or if the author reads their own book, I'm more likely to listen to the audio version in that case. But if it's a book that I expect to take lots of notes, like I have notes for every single book that I've ever read since 2014. So if I expect to take a lot of notes, then I'll just read the print version instead, or the ebook version. I've got 5 or 6 different book apps on my phone. But if you remember the tagline for the iPod when that came out, it was 1,000 songs in your pocket. And now with ebooks, you've got 1,000 books in your pocket wherever you go. And it's by reclaiming these 5-10 minute spaces of time that everybody just wastes that you can take back hours and hours and hours of reading time in your week, and you can start to chip away at this daily or weekly reading goal. And then a reason why you might want to switch genres a little bit, like I always have a fiction book on the go, sometimes a couple if I'm feeling adventurous. I also always have at least one or two nonfiction books on the go, but I'm not always in the mood to read that. So by always having different genres on the go and books in different formats, you're never going to be without something to read, and you're never going to find yourself in a spot where you have an hour that you could be reading, but you just don't feel like it because you're stuck on one book in a genre that you don't feel like reading, or you're not able to pull out a physical book, or things like that. Because a lot of reading a book a day is by removing the friction, like removing the obstacles to achieving that. And I mean, that's the same thing with anything that you want to achieve. A lot of it, is just removing the constraints and like identifying what those are and seeing a little bit further ahead and predicting what might stop you from achieving that goal and remove those constraints, those roadblocks, those obstacles. My final tip here is to work with your energy and your schedule. For myself, I'm a full-time book influencer. I can read whenever the hell I want, and I take full advantage of that fact. It is one of my greatest online flexes, but at the same time, I know that in the morning is when I most feel like reading, and that's when I get the most reading done. I'll wake up, make myself a cup of coffee, and immediately sit down with a book, and for the next few hours, it's the only thing that I feel like doing, and because I work for myself and I do what I feel like doing, I just read for those, 3, 4 hours until I just do the first thing on my, task list for the day because I do actual work. And with your 200-page a day goal, maybe Monday and Tuesday you have only a half hour to read, but Thursday you have wide open. Knowing that, you plan ahead and you plan to read maybe 400 pages. That's not impossible, but you plan ahead. You see, Thursday is wide open. I'm going to read, 300 or 400 pages that day, but Monday, Tuesday, going into it, I know my schedule doesn't align with this book a day goal. That's another reason why people don't think that it's possible. They look at their schedule and they think, I can't read a book a day. I've got, a lot of meetings on Wednesday. But if you switch the way you think about it a little bit and instead go for 7 books in 7 days, not a book a day, that can really help. Now, I mentioned that I take notes on every single book that I read. I'm going to make a full breakdown of my note-taking strategy for this channel, and it's going to be a relatively in-depth video on how exactly I take notes because I do have, it's a very simple system, but there's some moving parts to it, some nuances that, it does require a full video to kind of go into. But if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel, come back. And a quick note, if you are an educational content creator and you want to get up to at least $5,000 a month in revenue, you should think about joining my private business mastermind on School, and that's called Creator Launch Academy. It's the first link in the video description, and that's where I help educational content creators scale their reach, revenue, and reputation. It's me in there, not a team of coaches or anything like that. We've got live calls. I'm working on building out a huge library of courses, and that's just like informational stuff, not a whole lot of flash or anything, just like me like teaching you exactly what you need to know to do this full time, and not necessarily about books. But if you just teach anybody anything on the internet and you want to just get paid for it full time and just like quit your job and read books all day like I do, then click that link in the video description. It's the very first one. It'll take you right to it, and there's a free trial too. So that's all down there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. You may also like this video right here. It's called 10 Fascinating Books That Will Increase Your Intelligence. But always remember, bookmarks are for quitters, and even if nobody else believes in you, I do.
I don't waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating. Yeah.